Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today into the world of architectural practice.
Yeah.
But we're not going to be admiring, like, the finished buildings this
Yeah,
time.
right.
We're going behind the scenes
Uh-huh.
to look at all the systems
Yeah.
that actually make those designs a reality.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about the forms, the templates,
Mm-hmm.
all the organizational nuts and bolts that keep an architectural practice running smoothly.
It's a side of architecture that, honestly, I think a lot of people don't even think about,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
but it's absolutely essential. You could have the most creative design in the world, but if
Yeah.
you don't have a solid foundation in place in terms of, like, organization and management,
Right.
it's probably never going to get built.
Well, thankfully, we have an expert here with us
Yeah.
who's going to guide us through
Definitely.
all of this.
Yeah.
And we're going to be looking at a chapter from a professional handbook on standard templates for architectural practice.
Excited to dig into that. These templates, I mean, they might sound kind of boring at first glance, I know.
Right.
But honestly, they're packed with so much practical advice and wisdom
Yeah.
that can help anyone, really,
Yeah, absolutely.
looking to improve their organizational skills.
So before we get into the specifics of, like, the different forms,
Mm-hmm.
let's take a step back and just talk about the bigger picture. Why are these standardized forms and templates
Right.
so important in an architectural practice?
Okay, well, imagine for a second an architectural practice that doesn't have any standardized systems in place.
Oh, that sounds like a recipe for disaster.
It would be chaos. Every project, every client interaction,
Yeah.
every financial transaction would be handled differently. And all that inconsistency leads to mistakes, delays, miscommunication, and ultimately is just a lot of wasted time and money.
It's about bringing order to something that could very easily become very, very messy.
Exactly. These forms and templates provide a framework for consistency. They ensure that everyone in the practice is following the same procedures,
Right.
that is on the same page.
Yeah.
And that just streamlines everything, reduces errors, and ultimately lets the architects actually focus on what they do best, which
Yeah.
is designing.
Okay, so this handbook breaks down these forms into three main categories: human resources, financial management, and practice management.
Right.
Let's start with human resources.
Okay.
What kind of forms fall into this category?
So human resources forms are really about managing the people side of the practice. And it all starts with one of the most fundamental documents, the job description.
Now, I think some people might hear that and think, oh, a job description, that's just a formality.
Yeah, I can see that.
But it sounds like you're saying it's actually a lot.
But it's so much more than that. A well-crafted job description is a powerful tool. Think about it from both sides, from the firm's perspective
Right.
and the employee's perspective.
Yeah, that's a good point.
For the firm, a clear job description helps attract the right people.
Okay.
It sets expectations up front so people applying know exactly what the job entails and what will be expected of them.
So it acts as a filter,
Exactly.
making sure you're getting the best people.
Exactly. And then from the employee's perspective, a good job description provides clarity and direction. It tells them what their responsibilities are, where they fit into the firm,
Okay.
and even outlines like their potential for growth within the company.
So it's not just about what the employee does for the firm, but what the firm can offer them.
Yeah. And the handbook really brings up a really interesting point here.
Okay.
It says that job descriptions can be used in performance evaluations.
Oh, that's a good point.
So they're like a benchmark, right?
Right. Yeah.
You can look at that job description and see how the employee is progressing
Okay. Yeah.
and identify areas where they can improve.
Right.
So that job description, it really has an impact throughout an employee's time at the firm.
So it's creating a sense of continuity,
Right.
and it's helping to align individual goals with the overall goals of the practice.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so we've talked about job descriptions.
Uh-huh.
What other forms would fall under the human resources category?
So after you've got the right people, you have to manage their performance.
Yeah.
And the source material, the handbook, it mentions performance evaluation forms.
Yeah.
They give you a structured way to assess how someone is doing
Okay.
and set objectives for the future.
And this is all about creating a culture of feedback and continuous improvement, right?
Yes, exactly. The handbook really stresses the importance of regular performance evaluations.
Okay.
Ideally, every year, maybe even twice a year. And these evaluations, they should be based on clear, measurable goals that are tied to that employee's job description and the overall objectives of the practice. So it's not just a pat on the back or like, hey, you need to work on this.
Right. It's much more structured and strategic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a process that links individual performance to the overall success of the firm.
So these performance evaluation forms, are there any specifics?
Yes, the source material actually suggests using a standardized form that has sections for like self-evaluation with supervisor feedback and then a place to set goals.
Yeah.
And that ensures consistency, provides a clear framework for these conversations about performance.
So really every step of the way, there's a form or a template guiding the process.
Exactly.
Okay, so we talked about job descriptions, we talked about performance evaluations. What about hiring?
Oh, the hiring process. The source material touches on the application and the interview process.
Okay.
And it brings up something really important, legal considerations.
Oh, right.
There's some questions you just can't ask in an interview and some information you can't request from applicants.
Makes sense. You want to make sure everything's fair and unbiased.
Exactly. So the handbook actually offers a sample interview form with questions specifically designed to elicit insightful responses, assess a candidate's suitability, but all while staying within the law.
So this form, is it kind of like a cheat sheet for conducting good interviews?
Yes. It is. It's like instead of asking about someone's age or marital status, you know, which you can't do.
Yeah.
It focuses on questions that relate directly to the job. So things like their experience with certain software, their approach to problem solving, how they work in teams.
It's all about getting the information you need to make a decision.
Exactly.
Without veering into any legally trippy areas.
And the beauty of having this standardized form is that it makes sure every interview is consistent.
Right.
So you can compare candidates fairly.
This is incredibly helpful. I'm already starting to see how using these forms and templates can make such a difference in the workplace.
It really can.
It makes things so much more organized and efficient.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg. We've got a whole world of forms and templates waiting for us in financial management and practice management.
All right, let's dive into those next.
Yeah. All right, so we just covered a lot of ground in human resources, right? Setting the stage for like a really well-structured practice.
Yeah, it's fascinating how much structure there is even in just that one area.
Yeah, for sure. Now let's move on and talk about the financial side of things.
Okay, yeah, because managing money well is important for any business.
It is.
But I imagine it's especially crucial in architecture, where projects can last for so long.
Absolutely. And in this area, the source material really emphasizes accurate fee calculation, making sure architects are getting paid fairly, you know, for all their work and expertise.
But I'm curious, like, how do these forms actually help with that?
Well, you know, calculating fees for a big project, it can feel overwhelming, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So the handbook recommends breaking things down into smaller chunks, you know, into different phases and deliverables, and then estimating the effort hours and the costs for each piece.
So it's kind of like creating a roadmap.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you're breaking down this huge journey into smaller, more manageable steps.
And the best part is you're not just guessing.
Oh, good.
The source material actually emphasizes using data from past projects to make those calculations.
Now that makes sense.
So, you know, you look at how long certain tasks took, how much they cost on previous projects, and that gives you a much better idea of what to expect.
So it's all about using real-world experience to guide you.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's fee calculation. What other financial forms are important here?
So there's also the project cost control chart.
Oh, okay.
I like to think of it as like a financial dashboard for each project, and it tracks all the costs, especially payroll.
So it's not just about like setting the fees up front, but also about making sure you stay on track.
Right. And this chart can really help with that because you're comparing your actual costs to your projected costs.
Right.
So if things start to go over budget, you can catch it early and make adjustments.
So it's like an early warning system.
Exactly. It helps you avoid those like nasty financial surprises.
Yeah, I could see how that would be super helpful.
Definitely. And then, of course, we have the invoices themselves.
Ah, yes, the actual bills.
The lifeblood of any business.
And I imagine those need to be pretty detailed given how complex these projects can get.
They do. The source material actually gives a specific example.
Oh, really?
It's Form 3.11 Form A.
Okay.
And it lays out exactly how fees are calculated based on the construction costs and any extra services.
So it's not just like a simple invoice, you know?
No, it's super thorough, which is good. You know, it keeps things transparent.
Yeah, I bet T.
And reduces the chances of disputes.
I mean, having that level of detail laid out in the standardized format just seems like
Yeah, it's so helpful.
so much easier.
And it gets even better. The source material actually suggests creating separate invoices
Oh, interesting.
for different types of services and expenses.
Okay.
So you might have one invoice for your basic architectural services,
Mm-hmm.
another one for additional services like site visits or consultations,
Right.
and then another one for reimbursable expenses.
Yeah, that makes sense. Breaking things down like that. I mean, it probably helps the clients too.
Yeah, it just makes everything clearer.
So we've got fee calculations, cost control, and detailed invoices.
Mm-hmm.
What else is important on the financial side?
Time tracking is absolutely crucial.
Okay.
And remember how we talked about those detailed job descriptions?
Yeah.
Well, those come into play here too.
Oh, I see. So it's not just for billing purposes.
Oh,
It's also about understanding how your team is spending their time.
right. The source material stresses the need for really detailed timekeeping.
Right. Reporting everything you do throughout the day.
Wow.
And this information, I mean, it can help you understand so much,
Yeah.
like how time is being allocated across different projects,
Mm-hmm.
where you might be able to improve efficiency, even which services are the most profitable.
So time tracking, it's not just about punching a clock, it's about gaining valuable insights
Yes.
into how your practice is operating.
And then you can use those insights
Right.
to make better decisions
Yeah.
about staffing,
Mhm.
project management,
Okay.
even your fee structures.
So it's all interconnected.
Yeah, everything builds on everything else.
And speaking of interconnectedness, there's one more financial form. We should talk about the expense claim form.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
The expense report.
But it doesn't have to be a headache
Oh, good.
if you have a good system in place.
Okay.
The source material really emphasizes clear documentation
Mm-hmm.
and sticking to company policies when it comes to those reimbursements. Yeah, I mean, it's important to protect both the employee and the firm.
Right.
So we've covered a lot of ground in financial management,
Well, we have.
from fee calculations to cost control to invoices, time tracking, expense reports.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's amazing to see how much detail and structure goes into this.
It's all about keeping that financial health in check.
Right, so what's next?
Well, now we move into practice management,
Okay.
which is all about streamlining the overall operations of the firm.
All right, so how do we keep everything running smoothly?
Well, one important form is the project directory.
Okay.
It's kind of like the central hub of information for each project.
Oh, okay, so it's like a master document that keeps everything organized.
Exactly. It would include things like project contacts,
Mm-hmm.
timelines,
Wow.
even financial information.
So it's like one place to go for everything related to that project.
Right. And having everything in one place helps reduce miscommunication and delays.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And then we have something that might seem a little old-fashioned.
Oh, what was that?
Office stamps.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? But they're still relevant even in this digital age.
Interesting.
They're great for tracking document status and routing.
So it's like a way to see where a document has been and who has seen it.
Exactly. And the source material specifically mentions a received routing stamp
Okay.
to mark the date a document came in and then track its movement.
Oh, I see.
And there are other stamps for different purposes, too.
Right.
Like to mark something as approved or for review.
So it's like a visual system for
Yeah.
managing the flow of information.
Exactly.
Wow. So we've gone from human resources to financial management to practice management,
It's been a whirlwind.
looking at all these different forms,
Yeah.
job descriptions,
Yeah.
invoices, time reports, office stamps.
I know, right?
It's amazing how much thought goes into the operational side of an architectural practice.
It's all about having those systems in place.
Right.
So everything runs smoothly.
And that's really applicable to so many different fields.
Absolutely.
It's not just about architecture.
These are universal principles.
Right. Whether you're running a business, managing a team,
Yeah.
or just trying to organize your own life.
It's all about systems and documentation.
It's really interesting to think about all these forms and templates as tools for creativity.
Oh, yeah.
It's like when you have all those systems in place, you're not bogged down in all the administrative stuff.
Right. You free up so much mental space.
Right. You're not constantly putting out fires or like scrambling to find information.
Exactly.
You can actually focus on the big picture, the design, the vision.
Yeah. It's like having a clear canvas, ready for inspiration.
Oh, that's a great way to put it, a clear canvas.
And it reminds me of that saying, like, genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe these forms and templates are part of that 99% perspiration.
Right. They're setting you up for that 1% of inspiration.
Exactly. And it's not just about like individual creativity either.
Oh, right.
It's about the whole practice,
Yeah.
When everyone's working from the same playbook, so to speak.
Yeah.
Communication flows better, collaboration is more efficient.
Right. And all those ideas can really come together.
Yeah, it's like a well-rehearsed orchestra
Oh, I like that.
where every musician knows their part. They're all in sync with the conductor,
Mhm.
and they can create something truly beautiful.
That's a perfect analogy. And that's what I think is so cool about architectural practice management.
Yeah.
It's not just about paperwork and procedures. It's about creating an environment where creativity can flourish.
Right, where those amazing designs can actually become real buildings.
Okay, well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
From the very specific details of, like, job descriptions and invoices to these bigger ideas about organization and creativity.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting conversation.
Any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap up?
I would just say embrace those systems and processes.
Yeah.
Don't think of them as limitations.
Okay.
Think of them as tools that can help you do your best work. I love that.
Whether you're an architect, an entrepreneur, or just someone who wants to be more organized.
It's all about finding those systems that work for you.
Exactly.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of architectural practice management.
It has.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your expertise.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time for another insightful exploration.
See you then.
Until then, keep learning and keep diving deeper.